The following Women's Spaces show was recorded on Monday, October 1st, 2018.
The woman in your life will do what she must do to comfort you and calm you down and let you rest now. The woman in your life, she can rest so easily. She knows everything you do because the woman in your life is you.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Women's Spaces. My name is Elaine B. Holtz, and I'm your host. With me at the board is my friend, my partner, my engineer, and my co-producer, Ken Norton. Good morning, Ken.
Good morning.
Oh, what a beautiful day here in Sonoma County. At last, we have a little bit of rain, and that really feels good. Keep raining, that's what I say. Well, I have a real wonderful show for everybody this morning. I have four. Oh my goodness, I don't know how we're going to handle that one. I have four special guests for this show. Joining me on the phone will be Laura Wells, who's a member of the Green Party, and we'll be talking about some of the concerns many of us have seen that when we saw the special program where the nominee for the U.S. Supreme Court, Brett Kavanaugh, and his accuser, Dr. Christine Ford, were able to make a testimony. I watched every moment of it, and I'll tell you something. I have a card with me. It's with a big question mark because I really don't know what's going on. And it was very interesting listening to Amy Goodman's show. And it's very important that we call our congressmen, we call our senators, we call our leaders, our trusted leaders, and let them know what they are feeling. Also joining me in the studio are three women from Verity. Verity is Sonoma County's only rape crisis center, a rape, trauma, and healing center. I'm going to have Christine Castillo, who is the executive director, Jessica R., who's their bilingual sexual assault victim advocate, and Hallie P., who is their prevention manager. And we're also going to be talking about the interviews and the program on Kavanaugh and Ford. I mean, it was just riveting. And also, I just want to let my listeners know, I remember listening to the whole Anita Hill interviews, and I was stunned at that time. It felt like nobody was listening to her, but this time it's a little bit different because there are many, many women out there listening, protesting, and it's just amazing what's going on, and I hope that they do a fair and just FBI report. Well, Ken and I had a great weekend this weekend. I mean, in spite of all this stuff happening, I mean, I felt my head was like a balloon from listening to all this stuff. But Ken and I managed to get out. We had a great weekend. On Saturday, Ken and I went to Sonoma Strong Healing Fair. It was absolutely wonderful. And a special shout out to the organizer, Sherry Padoli, and who's the president of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce, and the co-president, Diane Borgers, for putting on such a great, great event. They offered, I couldn't believe it, we went into what was known as the healing room, and these were all volunteers. They offered all kinds of healing modality. We had massage, they had acupuncture, they had all kinds of treatments, and even had psychic healers. I mean, to me, it was like I was back in the 70s, the 60s and the 70s again, but even more progressive and more people involved. So it took a lot of work. And I want to thank all the people. You know, Sonoma County really came forward with volunteers. I never saw an event that had so many volunteers. It was just amazing. And they're going to do another one next year, they said. So keep your eye open for it. And then I had a chance to go downtown to the Heroes of October, the celebration of heroes in downtown Santa Rosa on the square. Memorize, I can't believe it's been a whole year since we've had that fire, and what's happened when I did the interview last week with Pat Kerrigan from KSRO, who's one of the organizers. All of a sudden it really hit me, what happened on that day. I mean, when we discovered that we knew there was a fire going on, but we did not know anything. Ken and I did not know anything about our own neighborhood until we came into the studio. And man, KBBF was bustling. I mean, we were getting donations. We were getting all kinds of things. People were actually somebody camping out in our parking lot. I mean, it was really a community event that was happening, and it was the first disaster in my life, to be honest with you. I've never been that close to anything as horrendous as that fire. And I remember when we got on the air, it was a Monday morning, and they asked us to make announcements about where places were evacuated, and there it was. Our neighborhood was being evacuated. We were shocked. We were glad we brought our dog with us. But fortunately, good luck, whatever you want to call it, we were able to stay in our home. But it was a tremendous, horrendous week, and my heart goes out, as deeply as I can give it, to all those folks who lost their homes. And to see this heroes thing, they had like kind of a clothesline. That's what it looked like, and it had all these different I guess we call them communities, where they came from different communities, like from Fresno, from Los Angeles, from Beverly Hills. They came all over to help with the fire, and everybody sent a T-shirt. So they had about 100 T-shirts all around the square in downtown Santa Rosa, and you could really see how huge this event was and how many people it took to manage it. And also the people that still have lost their home are still struggling, rebuilding, all the questions. I mean, it's just never ending. And the thing that I walked away from that fire was, the thing that really struck me more than anything was, I felt like I was in a war zone. I felt like I was frightened. I was frightened for my life. I was frightened for my children's homes, all the different things that were going on. Frightened for our own home, our neighbor next door, her tree actually caught on fire. I mean, it was such a shocking event, but I still could not help but feel like I was in a war zone. And my heart went out to all those people that are actually really in one. I mean, we had a fire on our neck, but thank God we didn't have bombs dropping on top of us. So a special shout out to everybody who attended yesterday, all the bands, and my deep condolences go out to all those people that are still struggling, trying to pull their home together. And, I want to remind you about something, too. I'm on KBBF, 89.1 FM. We are a community radio station. And during that fire, I'll tell you something, our Hispanic community could not have survived without the station, and our Caucasian, trust me, there was every race you could think of coming in here. I mean, there was fire is not prejudice, it just comes in, it destroys whatever it's going to destroy. But you have to recognize that we are community radio. KBBF and KSRO did such a bang-up job. I mean, but KSRO, they get their money from advertisers. We don't advertise. We do underwriting. We do memberships. So I really want you folks to consider at least becoming a member of KBBF to support the station, because this is such an important media, particularly in today's world. I mean, let's look at us. Let's just analyze us for 1 second. KBBF. Bilingual radio. I don't speak Spanish. I'm English. Women's Spaces. Probably one of the first women's shows in the United States came out of this station. Students started it. It's been going on for over 40 years. Support this station. Become a member. Become an underwriter, or at the very least, give us a call at 545-8833, area code 707. Talk to our program manager, Edgar. See, maybe you might be interested in making a few announcements or becoming an underwriter, but at the very least, please become a member. We need your support to stay on the airways. I donate. I have a show. I am donating. I want this show to stay on the air. I want to be able to give all this information. I want to be able to encourage women to stand up. Very, very important, particularly at this time. So, I don't know. It's an emotional time. It really is. It's a very emotional time for all of us, particularly for women. When you really have to start listening. When I was listening to some of this stuff that was being said, I said to myself, come on. I don't know if this guy did it or he didn't do it. Let's just do an investigation. Let's just do the regular protocol. I don't understand why they don't want the regular protocol. It just doesn't understand. So I'm glad at least we got to the point that they are doing a FBI investigation. Well, listen, I have a special announcement, and that is tonight, October 1st through October 5th. There's going to be a vigil in front of the Federal Building here in Sonoma County at 777 Sonoma Avenue in Santa Rosa. And the purpose is going to be happening from 5 to 6:30. And the purpose, according to the organizers, is an opportunity to say yes to Dr. Christine Ford and no to Brett Kavanaugh and the misogynist and the U.S. Senator. They are requesting that you wear black and bring your sign. It's a good time to gather, talk with one another, and let folks know that we are concerned. We've got to come together as numbers. I will definitely be there. I will have lots of cards with the Women's Spaces pledge on it. Remember, my self-esteem does not depend on anything outside of me. My self-esteem depends on my relationship with myself and my higher power. I will be giving those little cards out, so just come and say hello. Let me know that you're listening to KBBF. Let me know that you're maybe even a supporter. So there's a lot going on, really. And then another thing that's going to be happening, and I just got this, so I'm not really familiar with it, but I'm going to make the announcement anyway. It looks like they're planning across the country, they're planning a walkout, and that's going to be, let's see, what date is that going to be? It's going to be Thursday, October 4th at 4 o'clock, again, in front of the Federal Building at 777 Sonoma Avenue. And I guess they're walking out. There's going to be speakers and all kinds of different things going. So if you go on the website, www.womenspaces.com, we're going to have a special announcement. But I just got it across the email this morning. It's called Cancel Kavanaugh, Join the National Walkout, October 4th, 2008 at 4 p.m. Speak out at 5 p.m. in front of the Federal Building at 777 Sonoma Avenue. So I encourage folks to be there. Well, I thought we would take a musical break now. I'm going to play two songs today during our break. The first song I'm going to play is one of my favorite songs by Ellen Bookstell. It's called Hey, Mr. Politician. And what's interesting about that song, it's so timely as it is today. I mean, I can't believe what's going on with women and women's rights, voting rights, all the different things that are going on. So pay attention to the lyrics. And when we come back on the phone, will be joining me Laura Wells, who's a member of the Green Party and is also running for Congress in Oakland against Congressman Barbara Lee. Oh, my goodness, that's a real challenge. So she'll be on the phone talking about what's been going on with Kavanaugh, and maybe we'll get her to talk a little bit about her campaign.
Hey, Mr. Politician, don't legislate, my love. You're not walking in my shoes. Don't hide behind your religion. It's my right to marry whom I choose. It's not your place to call me a sinner or decide who to have as my mate. Don't twist the words of the Bible to make laws that discriminate. Hey, Mr. Politician, there's no debate. We already separated church and state. Your religion should never abuse or take away my freedom to choose. Hey, Mr. Politician, don't legislate my body. You're not walking in my shoes. Don't hide behind self-righteousness. It's my right not to give birth if I choose. It's not your place to turn back the clock to a time when I had no voice. Don't try to take away my right to have freedom of choice. Hey, Mr. Politician, there's no debate. We already separated church and state. Your religion should never abuse politician, don't send me to war. You're not walking in my shoes. Don't hide behind a battle. It's not worth the lives we lose. It's not your place to lead your crusade, teaching our children to fight. Oh, say, can you see the price we've paid in death by the dawn's early light? Hey, Mr. Politician, there's no debate. We already separated church and state. Your religion should never abuse or take away my freedom to choose. Hey, Mr. Politician, there's no debate. We already separated church and state. Your religion should never abuse or take away my freedom to choose. Freedom to choose.
All I can say is wow. And just to remind my listeners, the reason that I play the whole songs is till you got to listen to every word, because it's a lesson in itself. Anyway, for you folks just joining us, you are listening to KBBF 89.1 FM Calistoga, Santa Rosa. I want to remind my listeners the opinions expressed here are not necessarily the opinions of KBBF, its board of directors, members, or Women's Spaces. Well, welcome. You're listening to Women's Spaces, and I'm your host, Elaine B. Holtz. And without further ado, I want to introduce my first guest on the phone with me is Laura Wells. Welcome, Laura.
Well, thank you, Elaine. It's great to be visiting with you again on your show.
Well, you know, before I would like to tell our folks a little bit about you. I heard a rumor, and I want to verify it. Are you running for Congress in Oakland?
Yes, District 13.
Oh, my goodness. That's against Barbara Lee?
That is Barbara Lee. It's with the top two primary. She was running unopposed in the June primary, so we ran as a write-in candidate and won, so we're one of two people. So it's interesting, two progressives, a progressive Democrat and a Green on the ballot in November.
Well, that's wonderful. Congratulations. And before we start, you know, I had to clarify that. I want to tell my listeners a little bit about you. Is that okay?
Yes.
Well, Laura Wells was raised in Michigan. She earned her bachelor's degree in foreign languages from Wayne State University in Detroit in 1969 and was elected to the Phi Beta Kappa Society. Actually, I'm also a member of the Phi Beta Kappa Society. Yeah. Laura went on to earn a master's degree of education at Antioch University and lived in Boston, Massachusetts for 10 years, working in computer programming and system analysis. In 1992, she decided to start working with nonprofits such as Pesticide Action Network and Women's Economic Agenda Project and other sectors such as schools, labor unions, and county government. She's a co-founder of No Corporate Money Campaign, and she ran for several offices under the Green Party. I believe you ran for state controller and governor. Am I correct?
Yes.
And she also has a beautiful daughter and is a great dancer. Anything else you'd like to add, Laura?
No, that was good. Thank you.
Well, I remember when you told me you're a ballroom dancer, that was another thing that we had in common.
Yeah.
Anyway, you know, Laura, just to begin, you know, the whole idea behind Women's Spaces is to encourage women to step up, step out, and speak out. So to begin with, tell us, where do you get all your courage to run for all these offices? I mean, on some levels, of course, you hope you're going to win, but you know the Green Party is struggling, and as far as that goes, but at least you have a voice out there. So how do you get your courage?
Okay. I'm not always sure it's courage, but it's that things, I was saying that when I was 9 years old or even in my 20s, I never planned to run for these offices. Actually, a friend of mine had a dream in 1992, and he said, Laura, I dreamt that you were in politics. And I said, I hate politics. And he said, well, try the Green Party. It's a brand new political party in California. And so then I did that, and then one thing led to the other. And then it turned out that I was in the position, because I had worked for financial institutions, to run for state controller the first time that the Green Party was running a full slate for the statewide offices. And so there I was in that position, and then did that. There are a lot of challenges to running as a candidate, but one of the things that I want to encourage people, especially women, of course, to run, and that is that you do have a platform to express those things that you feel so deeply. You know, the way that you really want the world. I mean, sometimes I want to explain myself, not so much that I'm courageous or whatever. It's just that I'm simple-minded. I want a better world.
Well, you know, I have to piggyback on that, because I think that's why I do the radio show. I want to encourage people to participate, because we are the change that we've been waiting for. And especially, as you know, I became a great grandmother, and that is really like, oh my God, you know, now I really got to work hard. Well, the main reason that I had you on, I wanted to invite you to the show, is because of what's been going on with the appointment to the Supreme Court. So, did you have I'm sure you had an opportunity to watch most of the interviews and the discussions?
Well, just about as much as I could stand.
Well, what was your overall feeling? I mean, what came up for you?
The fact that there has been such a long-lasting, you know, what they've called a good old boys network, and where people with impunity have, you know, particularly men, but not just men, but with impunity, have done whatever they wanted to. You know what it reminds me of is that I've read a lot of Yanis Varoufakis' work and seen some of his interviews online, and he was the former finance minister of Greece when the people voted against austerity, and then this socialist government went for austerity, and he resigned. But he had a conversation with Larry Summers, who's been, you know, in the Treasury Department of the Fed, or, you know, who's been a big shot in the finances of our country, both before and after the global meltdown 10 years ago in 2008. And Larry Summers said, well, you've got a decision to make, Yanis, and that is if you want to be an insider or an outsider. If you're an insider, you can get, you know, some things done, but an outsider, you can speak truth to power and all of that. But if you choose to go the insider route, you cannot turn against other insiders, and you cannot tell other insiders, you know, you cannot tell other people what the insiders do or say. So there's this wall of secrecy around things, such things as the sexual abuse that they've done, as well as the policy, the population abuse, you know, the policies that they've done, and the wars that have been lied about, and all of those things. But so I see that when I look at the Kavanaugh hearings and Dr. Ford's testimony, it's like, in a way, I sure hope the gig's up. You know, that Dr. Ford has come forth, and other people have come forth in the Me Too, and spoken truth to power, and said, no, this is what happened.
Well, you know what I found the most interesting about her presentation is that she's talking about morality, that she didn't want to be there, but she felt, because it just, you know, I thought of myself, if I was, say, washing the dishes, and all of a sudden I heard an announcement come on that this gentleman was running for the Supreme, you know, being chosen for the Supreme Court position, and all of a sudden I had this experience with him. I think I would really think long and hard. I don't know if I would come forward. I hope I would, and that's why I admire her, that she said, no, this is not right. I have to come forward. This is a certain personality that I experience, and maybe she's not saying he should or shouldn't do it. She's saying you've got to look at it, and that's what was so stunning to me. And yet the response was as if she was making some sort of crazy accusation and trying to bring him down, which I never got that feeling. Did you get that feeling at all?
No, No, and I have a feeling you would come forth. But the thing that really gets to you, and that got to her, is like the next generation. It's like we've got to stop that. You know, like I could just hide and say, okay, you know, I'll just ignore it and move ahead. But this stuff has got to stop happening to the next generation.
I want to ask you a question that I thought was really interesting. When the woman asked her the question about the polygraph, you know, who paid for it? You know, and then all of a sudden the lawyers lawyer grabbed the microphone and said the lawyers paid for it. Like, just get on with it. Why do you think they put those types of questions in? I mean, what do you think their purpose is?
Why would they ask about the polygraph?
Yeah, who paid for it? I mean, why? And go through all that. I mean, it seemed like there was a lot of questions asked around it when they could have just gotten a report on it.
Right. They're trying to make everything according to which side is it? Which side did what? Which side did the timing? Which side, you know, like as if it's a chess game, you know, rather than people's lives, really. But it's like, well, they didn't announce it. You know, they held back on announcing it. They didn't, you know, the fact that Dr. Ford had come forth. You know, or who paid for the polygraph, as if whoever pays for it is going to skew the results. You know, it's and all of that ends up being where it's the partisan game. Part of it is a partisan game, and it's that there are it's part of the two-party system. You know, when you talked earlier about the fact that I was agreeing and what are our chances of winning, well, we've had thousands of people elected at the local level, and even, you know, mayors and even an assembly person. But it's very stacked against us. But part of that, you know, related to this hearing, it's the two-party system. Well, do you know why we have Trump? Because everybody thinks there's only two choices, and Obama didn't deliver anywhere near what the hopes were that he would deliver. And so they go, let's try the other one. And so then it comes to the Supreme Court, and we can talk about why, you know, let's talk a little later about why is this the second appointment that Trump is doing? Why didn't Obama push with all the people in the country as well as his party to get a Supreme Court nominee when there was an opening in February of 2016?
Well, that's a question that, I mean, you know, God, who knows what the motivation was in. But, you know, I want to ask you another question. You know, what was your thought? Why do you think all of a sudden when Lindsey Graham all of a sudden just went off like that? What was he really? What do you think he was really saying? I mean, he kept talking about, what your family is going through, and I was thinking of Anita Hill. I was thinking of this woman. I was thinking of all the women that go through where they're not being heard. What was he talking about? What do you think?
He was making the point, from what I could tell, he was making the point that it was like an ambush, and that they had known that the Democrats had, you know, opposed Kavanaugh on policy positions and on the fact that they don't, you know, want an arch right-winger on the Supreme Court. But they opposed him, but they found this, Dr. Ford had come forward, and he was accusing them of being strategic about when they announced that she was there, you know, that was happening, you know, and they didn't say it right, you know, early on when they first found out in July or whatever. But that was what his point was that they should have done it earlier. It is sort of amazing that, I mean, he's the son of Billy Graham, right? It's sort of astounding that the religious folks would line up with somebody like Trump.
Well, you know, Laura, you said something very interesting. He's the son of Billy Graham?
I believe so.
No, I don't. I think it's another.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
yeah,
I think it's another Graham. Another Graham. No, but he's not. He's a Southern senator, from what I understand. Well, Laura, we're starting to come to the end of our segment here, and I'd like to know, is there any last words you'd like to say about this whole thing? And then I want to ask you a few words about your congressional race. Any words you'd like to share? Any feelings? Any thoughts about where you're at with this whole thing?
First, thank you for correcting me about Billy Graham.
No, don't worry. Yeah, we have. We're all
that, and I hadn't checked it out. So thank you for that. And the other thing is that the holding people accountable, holding corporations accountable. It's the people holding them accountable for what their past actions have been, what their current actions are, the drinking, and the being out of control when that happens. That is a very strong sign, I think. Another thing that happened recently was that Monsanto got fined $289 million for causing the life-threatening illness of someone, and a whole lot of other suits are following, with Roundup and things like that. You hold them accountable. Congress, hold them accountable. Nobody should run unopposed. And we should have debates and forums, which is actually we're going to have, Barbara Lee and I are going to have a candidate forum, but we need to hold people accountable, not just line up on our side. That was what I was talking about with Giannis and Varoufakis. Like, well, if it's our side, it's okay. It's okay if our president deports a whole bunch of immigrants. It's okay if our president does a bunch of wars, has a kill list, uses drones. No, that's not okay. That's the bottom line.
Laura, we've come to the end of the segment, my friend, and I'm really sorry that I have to cut you off like this. But I want to invite you to come back because I think it's very important that you talk about the congressional race that you're part of. I'm also been reaching out to Barbara Lee, trying to get her on also to talk about. I adore Barbara Lee, to be honest. I've watched her for years and years, but I really believe that having you run with her is very, very important because you get another perspective. So I want to congratulate you.
If I can just say one quick thing. It's a way to differentiate what a green, no corporate money candidate is and a progressive Democrat. There are differences.
Well, it's going to be fascinating, and I hope to have both. Oh, actually, there's 3 of you running, so that's interesting to know.
No, two.
Oh, 2 of us. Okay. Any website or anything that you'd like to share?
It's just myname.org, laurawells.org, LauraWells.org.
Well, Laura, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I loved your opinions, and I share many of them, and hopefully, I keep thinking in my mind, there's so many changes, like you said, with Monsanto, and now this is so different than the Anita Hill fiasco that it's almost refreshing, to be honest with you. So thank you so much. So thank you so much for being on Women's Spaces.
Well, thank you.
And wishing
progress.
You much success with your run. I just think it's really exciting. Well.